Hello, fellow alchemists. Welcome back to our series on Phoenix. And I've gotten a couple of questions, mostly from Reddit, at least involving about kind of my setup over here. So some people have pointed out that this is not so good because I'm actually using mix inside of the init. This is actually totally okay to do inside of a init. And that is because a init is called during compile time when you're using a plug. So that's the important thing to know, is that whenever you use the module plug, a init gets called during compile time, which is, of course, when you have mix available to you. This isn't exactly how I do things when I actually do this kind of setup. I wanted to make things a little bit quick to kind of show you guys what's the general idea. But how I actually do things is I'm going to walk you through. I don't like to use mix inside of my code, just because the reason it's not actually available. So I like to go to my config file. And as part of my app over here, I do like to make an env configuration. And here I'll use mix env. And then I just go to here and use application.get env analytics, and then that's called env. And that should work exactly the same. Now, something you need to know is that although this will work just fine, the main issue, which I believe somebody else also pointed out, but for sure I actually ran into recently because I wasn't even thinking about this being in compile time, is that if you have runtime configuration, such as pulling things from the environment variable, say you had this Google Analytics ID in the environment variable, you would not be able to get that. So what I actually like to do now, at least if I have runtime configuration, is slightly change this. So what I'm going to do is, instead of returning this, I'm going to put this into a single line and do keyword dot put. So inside my ops, I'm instead going to put in my environment the current environment. Now what I do with that instead is I'm going to match on environment, and if the environment is prod, so these are going to be coming from the ops over here. So if the environment is passed in and it's prod, then I'm going to grab the configuration. So for this one, I could just put this over here. And this should work just fine. Now, the other thing I like to do is I also like to use this over here. So for this one, I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to do GAID, set this over here. I also like to use the releases.exs inside my config for when I'm doing the runtime, but in this case, I'll just make it very quick and just say, I believe it should be system get env, and we can say that we're looking for the GAID. And if there's no GAID, we'll just use this as a backup. And in that case, then we'll just grab this over here. And this is GAID to match our key. And there we go. This is how you can do runtime configuration of your setup for Google Analytics. So in compile time, we grab the environment variable, which we set from mix environment. We grab the GAID, which again we set from our environment, and otherwise we have a backup over here. So this one we can have, say, a staging configuration or test configuration and our actual production configuration. And this should just work every single time. This is just a quick addendum to the video. I didn't want to just go through and re-record the whole video from scratch. A little bit lazy. I'm also preparing some other things. But what I just noticed actually is that this will not work, and that's because the assign function is part of plug. So we need to actually import plug con only assign 3. So we just want to report only the plug assign function. So now, if I throw up my terminal and I try to compile this, everything should work fine. Before I actually had an error, so if I actually remove this, you'll see that this is not even able to compile. That's because it doesn't know what is the assign function. So basically just add this in here, and you'll see that everything should work again. So this is Alan from Plangora. Please subscribe if you haven't. Thanks so much. Bye. Hi. Please feel free to ask us any questions about Elixir, Flutter, or anything else in programming. Here's our YouTube channel, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We'll answer your questions every Friday. Ya Mantai Ge Dak Man All. Yo Wenti Ji Da Wen Wo